Greetings and welcome again to the Watchers Prophecy News Critical Update. Have a very serious topic for everyone tonight. For those not familiar with the WPN, my name is Mars, and I am tonight the voice of big news that will soon affect everyone. Thank you and welcome to the WPN Show 12, and I hope you have your zip tape and duct ties handy. You're going to need them tonight. You know, you are the resistance. We are the army of the true order, the ones who carry the cross of Christ. You say you do. You politicize those facts on your channels, your pages, Facebook, everywhere else. You've got the cross of Christ on your page. You can see the cross everywhere. You make posts about it. You talk about your faith, your religion. But you can't let the powers of darkness intimidate you. Cannot let them make you cower. Can't let them make you crawl. You must understand we are the last line. We are the revolt. We are the Watcher Society, and we have epic information for your mind. Are you willing to join with others and stand up to the global cabal that seeks to rule the entire world? What will you do to change this paradigm? How far will you go to change our timeline? How far will you go to express your deep distrust of them that will play you so well that you accept it like the very gospel? What will you do? Will it mean your job, your home? What risk will you take? Your guns, your kids, being stuck with poison needles? Vaccinations, hallucinations? Mind-altering games that it seems the world wants to play with your very life. Going to show you such examples and explain to you how important it is for us to be free. What will it take to get you to action? What will it take? 57 folks overdosing at the park your kids play at. But you tell yourself, oh, that's sad. Park your kids play at. But it's not in my house, at least. What you fail to see is that it used to not even be in your nation. Now it's in your state. Now it's in your county. Now it's in your park. Soon it will be in your yard and even your living room. Tyranny. It's creeping in like the Walking Dead. Are you aware of what will it take to get you to action? It's the question tonight. These deliberate, feeble attempts to conceal the true nature of the coming one world order, the communistic plot facing our nation, the con games we're led to believe, the black boxes of gobbledygook, indoctrinated unbelievers, abortionists, thieves, criminals of the new world order, beware. We are watching you, and you have a supreme judge you will have to face one day, and come that day, I bet money it'll be on your knees. To whom should we marry freedom? Let me ask you that. Think about that. To whom should we marry freedom to make it multiply? Do we marry it to transgenders or gays that cannot make children? Male to male, female to female? Who would value freedom the way it was handed to us? Through battle, grievous wounds, damnable struggles versus real tyranny. Are they the ones we hand over our America to multiply our liberty? Are they the ones, the left liberals, who would steal our very rights to free speech? They're doing it now. They're doing it now. It's already at your very ears. That's how close it is. Right off your ears. Our right to self-protection, they the ones we entrust to our most precious bodily fluids also. Too much Dr. Strangelove. Tonight our topic is freedom and what it means to really live as we did, thankful for our hard-won victories, what freedom really means. Going to discuss that. Now, ANAFA and other neo-Nazi groups throughout history talk about what freedom is without ever knowing or pay the full price for it. Muslims are currently using that strategy now against us, our very liberties. Among the most humiliating ways to punish a human is to deprive him from freedom. When one goes to jail, he's deprived of freedoms, and so he is suffering, which is the point to punishment. Lacking freedom teaches the human lessons he will make use of. Freedom cannot be felt right unless one tastes the lack of freedom, and then he will really appreciate freedom from its very depths. Have you ever tasted freedom? Do you know the true cost thereof? Many of you do. Freedom is not absolute. Freedom must be limited. It must be. It is a sad fact that there are limits on freedom. Can't just do what you like and say, "Oh, I'm a free man." You cannot kill, can't smuggle drugs, or violate the laws and rules of freedom. 10 Commandments pretty much cover that. Can't just do these things, rules and freedom's sake. There should be respect to other people and their needs. Once there are two men sitting side by side and someone lifted his own hand and touched the other's nose, the latter complained. The former said, "I am free." This was a display to the latter, who was ready with all an appalling answer, say, "The freedom of your hand ends where the freedom of my nose begins." Yes, the freedom of anyone ends where the freedom of another begins. That is the limit of freedom. We have to define freedom to know exactly what freedom is. Many of you know and know how high the cost is. It's a thing that's said often that parents must teach their youngsters to be free. They must plant in them a love for freedom that is strong. But their freedom must be watched. It should not be without limits. If so, we can censor the behavior without fear from friends of our children. But now all that's changed. According to CPS, in 18 states, a 3-year-old has more rights than the parents. Has more say than the parents. That's in 18 states. The left's progressive agenda amounts to nothing more than, is it progress if a cannibal is using a knife and a fork? That's what it amounts to. Socialist and socialism back after World War II was the same as communist. Same word. And if you wanted to get in a fight fast, just bring up how good socialism was and you'd get your jaw broke in any pub in America in those days. Today, they revel in the fact that their brand is protected by the very values we hold dear to believe. As you want to think, as you want. Using our own freedoms versus free minds in order to cause chaos and divisiveness through our very land to promote anarchy and the downfall of the very thing that gives us the rights they have even to protest. Oh, I haven't even got started yet, but I'm about to get fired up, so you better hang on. Here it is tonight, our topic, Freedom 101. Get ready to ring the Liberty Bell. Freedom. It's a noun. State of quality of being free, according to Webster's. a exemption of liberation from the control of some other person or arbitrary power. Liberty, independence, being able to act, move, use, etc. without hindrance or restraint, confinement, or repression. Freedom. What a beautiful word. Our gift endowed upon us. Our birthright. Our inheritance. You know, often people say, well, my parents died and, I had to pay for their funeral and I didn't get anything and they didn't have enough money to pay for this and do that. Well, you do have an inheritance that they did pay for, that their parents' parents paid for, that their parents' parents' parents paid for, a birthright as an American citizen. Freedom has a very special meaning, even to me. I know what the price of freedom is. It's not come without a very high cost. Every man, woman, and child who lies their head down each night in peace does so because some other American at some time laid down their very life for them so that they could have that pleasure, that comfort, that safety, that security. Now I can write a bullshit program designed for the reading, comprehension, emotional maturity, steadfast level of an adolescent, but I shouldn't need to. We're all adults here, or at least you should be. Everyone hearing this should absolutely be able to handle free, honest, and open expression without trying to force someone to wear a facade, censor their ideas out of some crude intimidation tactics, or be pigeonholed into saying whatever the other person desires just so they can find a temporary conclusion to the matter at hand while scintillating the ego of the interviewer and not their actual viewpoint. Today, the lies on mainstream media deny our viewpoint of freedom. They obscure it. So much tyranny has been fought against through the years, from World War I warriors who bled out in the freezing rain. You don't think about them every day. Bled out in the freezing rain and mud, facing bayonets. Young soldiers of World War II sent overseas save us from inconceivable evils. 1948 generation, same generation of the birth of Israel. The Bible discusses this. They are truly the greatest generation. Sadly, we watch as so many of them depart us each and every day. God said that that entire generation, 1948 generation, would not pass away completely, for those things would be seen. And brother, we're seeing them today. You better believe it. I don't think I need to give you a message on exactly what freedom is. I'm sure you all have some conception. But it is tonight to make you ask some very fundamental questions. See, no one gets the supreme sacrifices made for what freedom is and why we cannot let it rot in the refrigerator of code complacency. They forget the very real cost. What America used to be like, what it should be like today, what it still should be like. Yes, technology has changed things, but our lives shouldn't have to change from the way it was in 1955 just because of technology. Our freedoms shouldn't change, but they have. Vietnam generation heeded their nation's call to duty. Men who faced ruthless enemies willing to do things we would not even consider doing to another man. Done to them, done to us. Done so we could inherit something as pure as our freedom. September 11, 2001, our beloved nation was attacked. Although it be in a superior cloud of deceit, tyranny, Desert Storm troops still gave us their limbs and their lives to make sure Muslim ideologies would stay in check, much like the Great Crusades. very few were worthy. Today we continue to fight for our most sacred possession, the right to live as free people. We're going to dive into that a little bit because I think that it is not completely understood. You see, with freedom comes responsibility. It's envied by many, blasphemed by some. We must never be complacent. We have a duty to preserve our way of life. It is how we repay our debt to our fathers and our forefathers. It is ironic how people perceive freedom. So many take this precious gift for granted, yet there are many others who are deeply grateful. No, you fly your flag outside on the porch. You say, "In God we trust." You can read it on some of our currency. But things are changing. It's not like it was. It's a shame that the backbone of the girly boy club, cross-dressing punk weirdos, the Democrat-loving, you can have anything anytime without paying for it, you can push your agenda on me with pink vagina caps, the very ones that could never in a million years live up to or earn the very liberty they have now to abuse. No spine, no backbone, no favor with God, no in God we trust, no flowers on the graves of our fallen, but we will erect a statue of Satan on the Capitol grounds and remove all your forefathers' monuments, take down every lesson learned so that you panty waste can find some way out the hard way. When you're defeated as a nation and have to learn how to speak German, Chinese, or Russian, you'll think twice. Left hates me. Left hates all right-wing people, it seems, particularly the watchers. Left hates me. They call me names. I get crazy emails about how they want to take my shows and shove them up my posterior. The idea I'm getting to is that you want me to flat out patronize you in probably the most condescending demeanor possible by my oral ability to arguably quell your leftist thinking. The greatest few paragraphs of non-bullshit you will ever hear in your lives, well, full knowing exactly what I'm talking about. Freedom. Either that or you're so totally, absolutely naive that you suddenly think that somehow deeply emotional, scarred by the sudden realization that I've talked a lot of mindless, meaningless trash, that it will never again happen because the abundance of empathy that is poured out across our nation into my soul has cleared my mind and set me on the path of absolute righteousness. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. We are the ones that must hold on to the very fleeting Americana with our very breath. We must. If we don't, it's gone! I'm sorry, I'm getting a little fired up, but it's about to get worse. I work hard to keep these things, these emotions, those feelings of what we fought so hard for alive in the Watcher Society. I know what methods of rallying the troops works compared to what doesn't. Believe me, I've read all the texts, I've went to all the schools, I've tried basically everything, and I've had more than enough time to develop my own command style, more than enough time to figure out what unorganized masses respond to, using a vast array of colorful Christian language, like it or not, resonates with people hell of a lot more than effectively than saying, "Oh, please, guys, let's just have some peace and a bite of this rainbow freedom cake." Folks, I'm here to tell you, almost everyone in America is taking a big fat bite. We've got to stop this. We have to stop this left push, and we have to stop it now. People who lean left, socialist Democrats, wouldn't know this because they are in these well-funded George Soros, Hillary Clinton-funded, organized, highly structured groups full of people that are often using third-party voice communications to relay information between each other privately, even to the ends of treason, having to erase 157,000 emails. Many omitted found on Wiener's computer, sent from Hillary, directly talking about the overthrow of our government. That's right. The ends, the means, the high treason, talking points like it was tea time in Venezuela. Bet they're having a blast there right now. This sheltered existence spoils them like a mother who coddles her children by homeschooling them until adulthood. Now, I have nothing wrong with homeschool. I think it's a good thing. But you need to understand what I'm talking about. They sat in their clubhouse, made of pillows, chewing on grandma's cookies, while I'm out there in the wasteland getting my ass burned off in a foreign land, squeezing blood from 1,000 stones at once just to pay for your marshmallow existence. It's a very good reason that as society develops, laws tend to become increasingly specific and well-defined. The fall of the Roman Empire came because they literally become lawed in. There were so many laws. They were walled in. They were lawed in. This is being done right now. It's at your doorstep. It's done intentionally. The reason is for this is to eliminate the human error factor, and keep handlers from bending the law or interpreting it as they see fit, suit their own preferences and agendas. The extremely broad and entirely subjective gray area of rule books socialists use versus the Bill of Rights, or even the ones they are trying to make to use as an example of me, is nothing more than an insurance policy meant to give the deciders the leeway and leverage they desire to get away with what they want without having to abide by the narrowness and structure of the black and white system that is very well defined and paid for with generations of our forefathers' blood. They can burn our flag. They can kneel at playing our anthem. They can't understand the rocket's red glare or the bombs bursting in air. The very reasons they even get to play their little silly little game. I even saw somebody make the point that in foreign lands, or even ones closer to home, I could get arrested even as close as Canada for saying some of the things that were right now in my show. Yeah, well, I don't like Muhammad. I think that's pretty well known. Yeah, well, you could also be jailed, stoned, beheaded for insulting Muhammad. Many Islamic countries, that's the rule. It's a pretty tame example as well, compared to the things that they have done. Putting you in a cage, throwing gasoline on you, lighting you on fire. There are many examples. So in light of this, it's time for me to officially hop on my soapbox tonight about this topic of speech. Free speech and expression. See, places like Canada doesn't have real freedom of speech, despite what many of their citizens may believe. They never fought for their independence or earned it. Canada is still part of the British Commonwealth, now politically known as the Commonwealth of Nations, but it's amazing to me how many Canadians relish our rights and states as their very own. How many of them have our same hearts? How many Canadians would stand up with us as one voice and say, enough! It's enough! We've had enough! It's enough! You scum-sucking inbreds of demons, we are versus you, and we have had enough. You are not taking our guns. You are not taking our rights. You are not taking our places with liberal liars who stomp on every crumb that we have earned. Yeah, I'm fired up tonight. It's full-blooded American, proud American, with relatives and ancestors who died spilling blood, and my own blood as well, spilled during wartime to protect the freedom and sovereignty of this country. I can tell you the most important thing American citizens have is our freedom of speech. Because if we don't have that, we don't have the ability to be able to speak out versus these people. If we don't have a right to convey how wrong they are, then picking up arms is a moot point. It'll never happen. Can't convince someone you can't talk to. It's arguably the biggest reason we're easily the greatest country on the planet. However, over the years, I've seen a new beast. That's right, I've seen a new beast arise, rear its ugly head, operating under the guise of social justice, threatening the fabric of this most precious nation in our right way of thinking. I don't understand how anyone could be a liberal. I honestly believe that it's a sickness, that progressives have a understanding of virtually nothing and claim to progress to something. Beast itself wallows in pools of seething political correctness. It's based off some kind of noble principle that they believe in. It serves as an indirect and invisible blanket of intimidation. It's meant to stifle and suppress any thought that is not aligned within what is deemed socially acceptable by our new mainstream society and news. It is the most insidious form of widespread censorship and social engineering in postmodern society, and yet its impact is sadly felt on a daily basis. I feel it. It's in my ear. This is not your parents' America anymore. This is not your grandparents' America. That is long gone, replaced by a black cloud of gobbledygook, free of all socialist perversions that lack one element of peace and safety. Well, I'm going to tell you what. It's not free of any socialist perversions. It has every socialist perversion. They write it now on our very leases. Can't even get a home anymore. You can't buy a property without leftist socialist perversions in your contract. That's fact. It's a big part of the reason why music and comedy, many other things in America, it's all spiraled completely out of control into the abyss just over the last 15 years. It's part of the reason why Hollywood has gone bankrupt in terms of creativity. A lot of people don't know about Hollywood. You see, holly is a tree, and it's the only wood, Hollywood, that is used in making a magic wand, the wood from a holly tree. Thus, Hollywood and its magical creativity. We see so many cinematic mistakes, remakes, instead of a new thought-out, provoking films that challenge us to push the envelope of their genres. Many things that are good and wholesome, that talk about Jesus, talk about Christ, shows now are segregated and put on a particular channel just for those people that want to view that very narrow band, because we can't let our great God be everywhere. We've got to put him in a little narrow channel. If you don't tune in there, you're not going to hear anything about God. It's all about the perverted ones. Gays, gay thinking now acceptable to children, brainwashing our youth to use one restroom. I could go on and on. In the past 25 years, we've gone from Al Bundy and Married with Children to Glee and Big Bang Theory. By the way, every single person on Big Bang Theory is anti-Second Amendment. Thought I'd tell you that just in case you didn't know. They have all said this in interviews. Look it up. They've gone from Freddie Mercury to Lady Gaga, from Metallica and Nirvana to Queer Eye Blind. They're unremorseful. They don't sing about the blood of Jesus anymore. They went from ultratronic flannel and ripped up jean short bell bottoms to topless women in public urinals. It's the same reason DC Comics turned the original Green Lantern gay and created an Islamic Green Lantern within 6-month time frame. Same reason that the most ironic superhero of all time, Superman, same character who is more American than apple pie and baseball combined, was made to renounce his U.S. citizenship because our troops were killing Muslims with real guns and real bullets for our freedom against their ideology. Ideology that they would like nothing more than to bring over here and give to your children, your wife. What? You don't think they want to put your wife in a burqa? You're out of your mind. In 50 years at this pace, we'll probably see some kind of open man-boy love relationship between Batman and Robin once society goes off the complete deep end and deems pedophilia to be acceptable behavior occurring in nature, promoting baby love, baby sex doll, action dolls, entire brothels of rubber children, waiting for these perverts to line up to exploit. Oh, you just don't know. Even mail order, you don't know. Look, George, I just got my baby Carrie oral love doll. I bet you don't have one. What happened to keeping up with the Joneses? It's now keeping up with the perversions and the trends of ever-changing idyllic drugs and pharmacopoeia. Ever-changing scenes every day of people standing up for the left, but very little standing up for the right. I could easily give you a dozen more non-superhero theme examples, but it's starting to really piss me off just thinking about it. It's part of what George Orwell warned us about in his book 1984. Only instead of Big Brother, state-controlled group indoctrination, the populace, and by the way, that's happening as well, and thereby society, to limit political motivation, to dumb us down to the point where we no longer give a shit, to dumb us down to the point where we don't care. It's a certain faulty-minded, progressive-minded sediment of society itself that produces a indirect social conditioning by using the same method of intimidation and fear to limit the freedom of expression, to limit the freedom of thought and voice. The very desired result is to eliminate anything that might be considered offensive or impolite to anyone, making us a bunch of neutral nobodies. Many of you that are listening tonight, some of the smartest people in the world. Our think tank on Facebook, the Watcher Society, is comprised of some of the most brilliant minds on this planet. Your heart may be in the right place, but the brain, for most, is far from removed. Saying goes, some of the worst things imaginable start with the best of intentions. Ultimately, it's not even a real life anymore. We're playing with a video game that revolves around killing other people with slashing, stabbing, piercing, blunt weapons up close and personal for gold and increased power. Turning the whole world into Dungeons and Dragons game where the devil himself is on the loose, devouring all that he can look at. Everything that can be found, even on a telephone screen. If you can handle that, Beast System, as we told you in our next to last show, the tech doubling every 12 hours come September 16th this year. The descriptions of lies, the deceptions, the more and more children than ever. I've never seen it. I've never seen anything like this. I've seen them even at the age of 3 years old know more about telephones and how to swipe this and do that than 50-year-olds. Our society is being programmed by the left. They know how to program our youth, and they're doing a good job. Can't tell you how many young people I come across that I've talked to that tell me how left they are and don't even realize it's coming out of their mouth. Can't identify with anything that was before their time. Have no conception of what America is or would study to find out what America was. What it's supposed to be. Seemingly the demonic powers that run the left think sewage treatments of the wayward thinking in some type of weird shaping that should be the American way, that their sewage tenements, their sewage ideology would just flow down the drain of our youngsters' thinking. You have to understand that it's no longer the American way into that you're standing stranger in a strange land. You are the stranger in a strange land, trust me. It's not the same anymore. It's not your grandfather's America. Deeply troubles me to see the Westerners, Americans especially, to be pissing on such freedoms that hundreds of people are dying for, even today in Afghan land and other places. A shred of every day in the Middle East. The left and the Taliban are the same creature. They even serve the same master. Did you know that? See so many young now who just cannot fight, have no will to fight, that have been brainwashed in accepting that it's okay to be a faggot. It's okay now to be queer. It's okay to teach that there's 31 sexes and genders in public schools. I don't know why that is, or where the sanity is, where they have put God. Where is He? Where did they put Him? Who decided it was just okay to leave God out of absolutely everything, whether it's just the fact that this generation is spoiled, sheltered, whether they don't know their history or whether they just don't give a shit? Can't answer that question because I can't truly empathize with that way of thinking. Frankly, I don't even want to. It's more important that human beings have the ability to fight with words and expressions rather than guns and bombs. People who wrote the Constitution of the great US of A knew that all too well. No strong parents anymore. We are literally raising a second generation of those wimps that will lose it all, lose everything. They aren't as strong-willed as they used to be. Most don't have life experiences needed to properly cope with intermediate conflicts, any kind of conflicts in their lives because of sheltered lifestyles and overprotective parenting. And yes, we have to have those things today because it's not safe to go outside anymore. It's not safe like it used to be. I remember when I was 6 years old, my mom would let me walk all the way across town with $20 bill in my pocket to go pay someone that she owed money to. Today, it's not like that. I always remember the time when I was around 9 years old fishing with my grandpappy. I remember we caught this great big catfish and he laid it out right in the boat directly in front of me and gutted it with his big old pocket knife while it was still alive. I still remember what those blood and guts looked like, what it looked like gasping for air as entrails were being tossed out into the water. You know, it scared me for a minute. It scared me a little. But that was good for me. You see, those scars, they toughen you up. We live under the curse of the earth. We have to be willing to have a scar to know what it was like to fight. Scars give you the opportunity to grow. Scars grant you the preparation you need for when things actually get really tough. I went hunting a few years back with a guy that said he wanted to experience it. Time, I gladly obliged and did not know him very well. It was a little odd that he didn't even want to take a gun. But he wanted to go hunting, and hunting we went. Well, as I said, little did I know how liberal this guy really was. I shot a squirrel, and it hit the deck. He ran over and made a tiny cross out of sticks and grass, and he placed it on its head before I could pick it up. And I said, "What? What's this?" And he got angry that I'd shot it. But we'd been moving for 2 days, and we were low on food. And I took it, and I skinned it. As it lay in a pan cooking for breakfast, he looked at me and said, "Your way is like a caveman. I'll just eat out of this can." Toughness is 99% mental. It is comprised of willpower and emotional maturity. It is part of the reason most people tend to stop crying from scraped knees when they grow up, become a man. People need to toughen up. The left has you soft. It's left our children soft. Words can only hurt you if you allow them to. It's not like if somebody were to actually plunge a knife in your sternum. Most children are given this lesson at a very early age from the expression, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Listeners, I urge you today to know good and well words that have shaped our youth. I want you to shape our youth the way it was. To teach your kids how to survive in this world, because soon their very lives will depend upon it. This is the last call for brave men and brave women to stand up to the spectral of special elite pink hat wearing tyranny that men have been placed in to replace real men of our world. You better stand up. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. This is Mars with the Watchers of Prophecy News. Stay tuned. Soon there will be more.